Well, good afternoon and welcome to another conversation of change your mindset, change the world. Amy Greene is with me today, and we're going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear to both of our hearts. We were just talking how we both kind of accidentally found each other on this topic. So this conversation organically grows from a struggle that both of us have with this fear of success. And so I want to start off with a question just to get the conversation going. Amy, when you think about the fear of success, what does that bring you to? And what are you aware of when you think of that?
So there's definitely like this feeling of, I would call it overwhelm when we think about what success looks like. We all have our own definition of what success looks like. I'm reminded of a quote from Rich Litvin, who is a coaching guru. He says that if you never feel like you're an imposter, then you're not playing big enough. So that feeling of, oh my gosh, what if I'm successful, or it looks like I'm getting really close to reaching that definition of success. That's a good thing. And so there's some kind of like peace that enters my mind, my spirit, if you will, that it's okay to feel that fear, just keep going. And then I think also we all tend to self-sabotage, and it might be unconscious. It might be something that we don't even see. And it could just be simple as, I'm not going to make follow-up calls today. I'm not going to go pursue this right now. I'm going to wait on it. We're going to just kind of procrastinate. And it could just be something that we don't even think we're doing, but that could be self-sabotaging our success because we're actually really afraid of it. So, yeah.
And the thing I'll add in here is Amy and I are both coaches. And so almost every analogy, everything that we recommend is in coaching. If you don't directly relate to exactly what we're talking about, an example, that's okay. You don't have to be a coach. I think if you're an entrepreneur and business leader, you just want to grow and get better in life. I think this applies to you. If you know what the fear of success feels like, step into this conversation with us. You don't need more information. We're not here to give you more information. I think just relating to somebody and being able to know that somebody else feels the same way. I know that was a big relief to me when I first started exploring this idea of self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. So the fear of success, how would you contrast that with the fear of failure? Can you contrast that with the fear of failure?
When I think of that, it makes me think they're actually almost the same. But it's funny because in order to be successful, you have to fail quite a bit to get there. If success were easy and the path was paved, we'd all be successful. And so as we are all doing our thing, regardless of what profession we're in, like we're coaches, we're working for ourselves, we're working from home, we're kind of these individual entities on our own. Whether you're in a business and you're working the corporate ladder, we all have our own journey, and it's all, there's that picture that's online of like success is not just like a straight line up, it's like this squiggle, right? And it gets all over the place. And so, in order to be successful, you have to have failed quite a bit to get there. And so I look at it almost as if the fear of success and the fear of failure are almost the same.
How do you find, for you, how do you define success?
That's a very good question. I look at it for me in terms of my coaching world. I define success is, am I helping the number of clients I'm able to help? So I'm a part-time coach, and am I helping the number of people that I can help, and am I helping them in a way that's transforming their lives? And so I look at it more of an impact situation versus dollars and income and revenue and all that stuff makes sense, right? Like we measure ourselves and our performance on that. But I think mostly it's, am I able to serve my clients well, and are they getting the results they deserve, well, with my help, right? So, right.
when I think about the fear of success, for me, I used to often think of success in terms of the results that I wanted to get. And so there was this fear of almost pursuing success also, because if I'm going for the results that I want, there's a chance that I don't get the results that I want, right? And so there was the fear of getting to this place, but there was, I think, also a fear of the journey to get to that place. Because what if I hit a brick wall and I fall off my bicycle and I crack my head open, right? I mean, crazy example, but I mean, like that's what I imagine on this journey to success is like, what if this catastrophic thing happens? And that's what I'm scared of, is a journey to be successful and actually being successful.
Yeah, it's like when you're training for like a marathon or something, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to like run my first marathon, but then you're like, I have to train for like 9 months, and that's a lot of running. That's a lot of running to get there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pain.
So using the marathon analogy, right? What if success is not just the actual running of the marathon, but it's getting up at 5:30 in the morning and running your long run every weekend? So if you shift, so I'm curious, if you shift your framework, or as you've shifted your framework from like results to an effort, right? So like getting up and running your long run or showing up for your clients, how does that affect this fear of success or fear of failure?
I think it actually helps in that you're compartmentalizing the action. You know, it's like, okay, just have to get up and do my long run today, versus run the full 26.2. And so, yeah, I look at it like it's creating that habit of the person you want to be. So like we look at success, and I'm a big Atomic Habits fan. And so if we look at where we want to be, what does success look like? It's really, who do I want to become? And as long as I'm doing those habits daily or weekly or whatever the rhythm is for those habits, am I becoming that kind of person? And so, you know, if we want to be successful, am I making the phone calls? Am I following up? Am I, you know, booking consults and clients and having conversations, and am I doing the work that's required? And you could break it out so that it takes away that fear of like the really big goal. You break it down to baby steps. So,
And it's something that you can control.
Yeah.
What I've learned along the way for me is that if there was things that I thought that I couldn't be successful at, coaching a soccer team or playing bowling. This is a good one, right? So I play I go bowling, play bowling. I don't even know the terms, right? Like once a year, somehow we end up in a bowling alley. And I'm not very good. So I won't even try. I'll do the under the legs thing, stand backwards, you know, because that way I can say I didn't even try. So when I score a 75, it's not because I tried really hard and I failed, but I'm protecting myself from this feeling of not being successful and scoring over 100, which for me would be successful. So I don't even try, right? And that way I can excuse away the lack of results by a lack of effort. Because if I really wanted to, I could have been more serious about it.
Right.
But when you say, you know what, I don't care whether I score over 100 or not. I'm gonna bowl seriously every time I throw the ball down that alley, right? Or that lane, whatever it's called. And if I show up, and this is a very simple analogy, but if I show up and I just do my best every time, if I don't care whether I get 70 or 100 or 170, but I just bowl seriously, I can completely control that every single time. Right? It's reframing what success looks like. So maybe is the fear of success tied to more of a results-based success?
It's possible. It's possible.
So maybe to pull on that thread a little bit, right? So you're a mom, you have 2 kids,
Yes.
coach part-time out of your house, virtually anywhere, right?
Yeah.
I coach part-time. I have 3 kids. So my point is, family is very near and dear to our hearts. So how does the fear of success tie into your role as a mom and a wife?
I think that we have, and I say we as like society, right? Like I think that there's this generalization of success that when you become successful, you're working 80-hour work weeks and you're just like killing it and you're always at the office and you're doing all the things. And like we could even throw that in for us as coaches, like we're speaking and we're traveling and we're just all, we have 100 clients, like we're just all the time go. And I think that there is a fear. I'll admit, yes, I'm a stay-at-home mom first, part-time coach second. And there is a fear that, because I coach nights and weekends, that if I'm extra busy, I have too many clients, like over, I've crossed boundaries. Like if I get too successful, like cross boundaries on my time, will I then give everything to my clients and not have anything left for my family, my husband, that kind of, or not have enough time for me, right? Like to take care of Amy. And so I think that there is a fear of success in that way, that like you'll tip the scales too far towards work or whatever that success goal is, and not leave enough for the rest of your life, the other areas of your life.
So even if you're successful in your effort, right? You show up and you coach your heart out every single time, right? Even in that sense, if you're successful in your results, if you're successful in your efforts, which then ties into success with results, what happens to the rest of your life?
Yeah.
So maybe,
I think,
well, so I'd asked you the question before, does reframing success in terms of results versus effort affect the fear of success?
I think it's if it's all in balance, and balance doesn't have to mean equal. It doesn't have to mean that like, that I'm giving an hour to my kids, an hour to my husband, an hour to my business. It's like, it's as long as I'm doing the right thing at the right time, that is, I think, a better framing of the effort. So like, for instance, this summer, kids are home. And so my business will probably get a little slower. Like my effort in my business will probably slow down a little bit as kids are home and we're out doing things, and I don't get the nap time like to myself. Like different things are going to change. And so I'm okay with that. Like I have to be okay with that, right? If that's what I want to create. So yeah, I think it's just reframing kind of your expectations of what you are able to do, but then doing the best you can to make it work. So
Balance doesn't have to mean equal. That's a really powerful thought.
It's not mine. It's Christy Wright. It's Christy Wright. Yeah.
I'll give you credit for it. I mean, I might have heard that before, but that's really powerful.
Because we all go through seasons. So I'm okay with my business not being gung-ho, like gangbusters. Like, could I give more time to my business? Sure, but I have children and my children are little, like the youngest is 2.5. So am I going to sacrifice a fun summer and hire sitters or put them in camps? Or am I going to just be with them while they're young? They can go to camps when they're older and they don't want to be with mom. And just for the season, keep my business at a place where I'm like, I'm happy with it. It works for me. It works for my life. It creates balance for me where I have time for myself and my family and my husband. And then when the season changes and the little one goes to school full time, right? Like that's a shift in the season, a shift in our lives, but it will allow me to work more in my business. So like there's different times to do different things.
So success can be fully determined by your season of life, your phase of life.
Your definition of success will change with the seasons of life.
So another way to put that, let's see if this makes sense, is if I have a $10,000 a year, $50,000 a year, right? Somewhere in that scale, I can be as successful in those terms as if I'm a 10 million or $50 million company at another phase of life.
Right.
Does that kind of land what you're saying?
Yeah. I think so, because, you know, success means different things to different people. And as we, you know, as I continue to coach, like, yeah, like success for me back when I first started was just having like a paying client or 2 or 4. And now success to me is having 20. So like, what does that look like? And it, you know, it's going to change and ebb and flow. But I think success, I think Earl Nightingale has the definition of success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So as long as we're working towards that ideal of having full client calendar, my client, you know, I'm full with clients and maybe have a waiting list, whatever that looks like, as long as I'm working towards that and helping people along the way, that's success to me, right? Or whatever it is your ideal.
So let's take this definition of success, a realization of success, and talk about go back to the fear of it and bring in the idea about being an imposter. One of the first quotes you used was about being an imposter, right?
Yes.
So how does, in your world, how does the idea about being an imposter fit into this fear of success? How do those meld together?
Yeah, I think it's because we look at people who are successful coaches. So, and it's obviously comparison is the thief of joy, but it's kind of a natural human quality, what we do. But we look at people we aspire to be like. We're like, oh, I want to be like that coach, or I want to be like that coach. And so there's this feeling that in order to be successful, we have to be like somebody, you know, somebody else maybe, or we want to have skills like them. Or it could be that, you know, I'm working with a client who is challenging me in new ways. I haven't been here before. I haven't dealt with a person like this with their situation. How do I, who've never had any experience in this world, it could be addiction or bankruptcies or other kind of crisis, maybe domestic violence, you know, all the things. I've never been in that world. So how do, you know, we had to start to question, like, how can I help them? You know what I mean? And what can I do to be a good coach for them? So it's stepping into that and knowing that we can help anyone at any time. But there's that fear of like, who am I to help this person? You know?
Does that feel like so going back to this idea about fear of success and fear of failure, are those the same thing, right? So what you're describing when you talk about imposter, does that feel like a failure of being a success, or feel like the fear of being a failure?
Well, I think it's funny because in the coaching world, since that's what we're kind of talking about, we have to be careful not to tie our success to the success of our clients. So a lot of us won't feel that we're successful if our clients aren't making progress. But sometimes, and making progress in like quantifiable ways, they might be making progress with mindset and belief systems and in other ways. But yeah, I think for us, we have to be careful. We have to be careful with that. So the fear of failure, I think we don't want to disappoint our clients. We don't want to mess it up. So I think that there's a fear there that we might say or do the wrong thing. But there's also a fear that, oh my gosh, what if I do this right? And what if this works? Right?
And so I was about to bring up that idea. So can we follow that fear down the path, right?
Sure.
But what if it is successful? Like, what if this actually works? What does that fear say next?
I guess it's really just, it's like, if this works, it's, because again, I'm thinking just in terms of my coaching world, is like, if it works with this client, like it can work with other clients, and like, will they refer their friends, and will my business start to grow because I'm gaining confidence and clarity with this client, and then will it mean that like there'll be a waiting list and people knocking down my door? You know what I mean? Like, will it be something that I can manage going forward?
This comes back to the boundaries piece again.
It's true. Yeah.
Life being like out of whack, for lack of a better term, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I think is interesting for me, what if this works goes a whole different way? What if I can't do this again? Like, if I have a client who pays off a certain amount of debt, or a client who doubles their amount of revenue 1 year in their business, or a client that I created a package for that was my highest paying package, right? Well, now I've set a new standard for myself. What if I don't ever do that again? I'll always be tempted, and I probably will always be very close to comparing myself back to my highest achievement. And so I think sometimes I hold myself back from having higher achievements, so I don't have that Mount Everest always looming over me going forward. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. But see, I look at it, and I look at it like, well, I know I've gone there. I've gone to the top, so I can go back, or I can climb the next highest one. You know, I can go. So I've been to the top of one mountain. I can go to the top of another, a higher one. I guess, I don't know if this is a scarcity and abundance mindset piece.
Yeah, it probably is. So when you say that, I can step away from the feelings of it and logically say, I did that once, I can do it 100 times, right? But what I feel is not that.
Yeah.
Right. It's my logic wrestling with the emotions of it. So when you say that, yes, I got there once, I can do it again, I can even go higher. Is that you logically saying this makes sense, or is this you also just stepping into the belief and saying
it's possible? It's possible. Yeah, because I think back to some things that I've done in my business where there were speaking engagements and whatnot, and I'm like, oh, I would love to do that again. But then the thought of like picking up the phone and coordinating this to happen again is nerve-wracking, right? Like, if it's like something I did 3 years ago, I'm like, ooh, that would be cool to do again, or to expand into, coaching with small businesses and working with, that's all great. But it's like, ooh, the idea of picking up the phone and or making connections, that, it's like, ooh, there's work involved. And so there's going to be work involved with either recreating what I've already done, or, it would be slightly different. Obviously, it wouldn't be the same, but
yeah.
I think there's a fear of taking those steps to get there in the execution.
Is it a fear of doing the work, of actually getting down to do it, or is it the fear that you wouldn't be able to do it?
I think it would be the fear of possible rejection, depending on what it is. Like, if I've spoken to a group of real estate agents, I would love to do it again. But then there's fear of like making those connections, calling people, reaching out, being told, no, not right now, that doesn't sound good. Like, we're not doing it because of COVID, whatever, all the things, but being told no as you start to like reach out and to create another opportunity like that again. I think that's more of the fear of, how do I jump in and just like make that phone call or set up the connection.
I find that very interesting, because when I look at it, I don't even get down to those details. Like, there's just a cloud of fear, like right in front of my face, right? And it says you can't do it. And it's literally like I see this Mount Everest right there hanging over me, and unless I stop and I define what this fear is saying and the ridiculousness of it, like, I don't even get down. I don't allow myself naturally to even get down into the fear of rejection, right? Like, the fear of never doing it again clouds all the other fears, and it's this multi-dimensional fear, and it's a multi-dimensional lie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, fear's a liar. We all know that fear's a liar.
Yes. Yes. Can we talk about self-sabotage?
Sure.
Because I remember when that first came up in the conversation we had, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize that you were that you had a propensity for self-sabotage, if it's okay to call it that?
Yeah. I think it's something that I've just kind of figured out on my own. As you make excuses for why you're either doing or not doing something, if I think about it over time, because we know that our efforts kind of lag in terms of results, right? So like making calls and following up and prospecting and all of that, it's like a 30 to 90 day window of time. So if I'm looking at my business numbers and I'm wondering why I'm in a kind of like a rut or a slump and things are slow and why are things so slow? And I look back, well, what were my prospecting efforts last month and the month before and the month before that? And so I know that there's a direct correlation between my efforts and my results. So if I'm sitting here on a Wednesday and I'm like, I don't feel like making prospecting calls. It's okay. My next appointment's not available till July. I'll just wait. And so those excuses run through my head, but they're self-sabotaging because I might not make contact with anyone today when I do my prospecting. I might just leave a bunch of voicemails or send texts, or I might be able to book people for July. And so great. Like, who cares if it's 2 weeks out? It's I've got to do what I can do in the moment. And so, but I think as long as I know that my results are a direct relation to my business success, making the choice to not follow up or not prospect is a self-sabotaging decision.
I want to pull on something you just said, and that's if you do what you can do in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
will you never sabotage?
Oh, of course I will. We do it. I think we do it unconsciously we don't even know we're doing it until later on. I think it's one of those things that we might know in the moment, we might not know in the moment.
So could you draw a distinction between self-destruction and self-sabotage? So if in the moment I realize that me doing this or me not doing this is going to result in some lack of success or whatever in the future, in the moment actively choosing to not do it is self-destruction.
Mm-hmm.
But unconsciously or subconsciously doing it and realizing it later, it wasn't actively destruction, it's more like passive sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much of a difference between self-sabotage and self-destruction. I mean, I think self-destruction might be a little bit more dramatic.
So for me, when I never thought I self-sabotaged ever at all. Why would I do that? Right? Mm-hmm. Of course, I want to be successful. Of course, I'm doing everything I can do to be successful. Right? And again, this was in the frame of results-based success. Right? Why would I do anything that doesn't result in success? And I remember somebody asked me I recorded a video, and somebody asked me if I would send them a video because they had a business opportunity that they wanted to share this video with somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And 1 week went by and I never sent them the video. 2 weeks went by and I didn't send them the video. And finally the guy called me on it. He said, I've been thinking about this every day. And now it's 2 weeks later and you still haven't sent me this. Will you send it to me? I said, oh, yeah. I forgot. Right. And I truly believe I had forgotten because I had such a built-in self-sabotaging mechanism. And when I did it, it took me 30 seconds to go find the link to the video and actually send it. Right. And it's around the same time that I had also just blown somebody else off. when they ask for something.
Mm.
And this happened like within 3 days of each other. And all of a sudden, and then somebody else had posted in the Facebook group about self-sabotage. And this all kind of came to a T, all in like one moment. And do you ever see yourself in a different light all of a sudden? Sometime you're like, holy cow, I might be somebody different than I thought I was.
Mm.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So this happened. I was like, whoa, Derek self-sabotages. Right? Now I got to figure out who this Derek is, because I never knew this existed before. And that's when I realized I had this fear of being successful. Like a fear of actually doing the things that would get me more business. And ever since then, I've been much more aware of it, and I'm sure that I still do it subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you look at people who have taken the journey, and it's not a journey that you take, it's a continual journey. The further you go along this path to success, the fewer and fewer people there are there. And it can be lonely up there.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that aspect of the fear of success, how does that sit with you, the feeling of loneliness, or the fear of loneliness?
I think it's a real thing. I think it's a definitely real thing. Because I think a lot of us can relate to the starting of our businesses and the starting of creating our coaching practices and learning how to run it and execute and all that. And I think, yeah, when you're busy and you're successful, you're busier. And so you don't have the time to connect like you did before, right? So like, I mean, we see it on the Facebook group, the successful coaches are coaching. So they're not on Facebook all the time. And so it's, or even just in like group chats or meeting on offline, you know, kind of thing to connect with another coach. So it can be quite lonely. And I think that there's definitely different challenges when you get to that place that other people don't understand. And you're trying to find someone who can help you with those challenges and who's out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And people don't necessarily self-identify as being uber successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was having this conversation with somebody from church, right? And they recently paid off all their debt. And they didn't know who to tell.
No, yeah.
Right? And we're talking about, so our church is, what, 700 people? Surely somebody in there's paid off their debt before. Right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. I mean, surely there's somebody that you could tell, but I think oftentimes the more successful, and this is a generalization, so just go with me, but the more successful people are, the less that they are to tout it.
To show. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know, it's harder to find your community.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of facets to the fear of success. The fear of repeatability, the fear of loneliness, the fear of rejection, right? To go do it again, the fear of
mm-hmm.
letting go of your, of not honoring your boundaries,
mm-hmm.
the fear of being an imposter.
The fear of imbalance, like creating that out of whackness.
Yes, that's a good term, out of whackness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's the person who used it. Yeah, it's really interesting. So as we wrap up this conversation,
mm-hmm.
what have you done, or what mindset shift have you had that helps you guard from that fear more often than not?
It's a good question. I think that, like, because success is not a destination. It's not like you just get off the plane and you're there and that's it. Now you get to kick back and do nothing. It's a continuous journey. And so what I define as success today in this season of life is going to be vastly different from what my definition of success will be in 5 years. And so, you know, I think always looking at how can I learn and grow throughout the whole process? What can I just do to keep moving forward is what I do, because the antidote to fear is action. And so what can I do today to just keep moving forward? You know, that progressive realization of a worthy ideal. How can I just keep moving forward to serve my clients well and to serve people well and to help others? And so, but also to, to keep my boundaries in place. And I think the boundaries have been key with that as well. I actually reduced my hours about 6 months ago to carve out more time for family and for myself. Sleep is like a beautiful thing. So yeah, it's amazing what a full 8 hours will do. And so, yeah, I think just knowing that definition of success, like it's going to keep moving. That finish line will always keep getting pushed out. So it's not like you arrive. There's no arrival.
That's really good. I as you say that, I think back to the way I used to view success, and I really did think it was a destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate admitting that.
Yeah, a lot of us do. If I just made X dollars, right? If we just make this, or if we just have that.
Right. Yeah, that's really key. And I that really hadn't come to me until you were saying that. I think another thing you said, that we were talking about self-sabotage, and you kind of contrasted it with being in the moment, right? Doing what you do in the moment. And again, that goes to action, right? So as it is with all fears, I guess, action is the antidote to fear, whether it's a fear of success or fear of fear. And if those are the same things for you, they may share a lot of commonalities, right? That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, thank you for stepping into this conversation. That was awesome.
Yes.
How can people get a hold of you?
So you can find me on the social medias at Amy Greene FC, Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, very good. If you resonated with this conversation, just know that when you change your mindset around fear, you, one ripple at a time, can change the world.